all we have is awful choices. So I'll end on, not a hopeful thing because it's not gonna happen, but I'll tell you who, if they ran, I know they don't believe it. I know I can't get it through his thick head that this is true. But if Jon Stewart ran right now as a third party candidate, he would win. He would flat out win. Because that's a guy who's honest. His positions are almost identical to the American people's positions. He's against corruption. He's a decent human being and he's smart. Oh my God, and he's funny, he's entertaining. People love people that are entertaining. Jon Stewart would win as a third party candidate. For God's sake, John, God damn it, do something. Don't leave us with these horrible options.
My God, that'd be amazing. And look, I obviously don't agree with Jon Stewart on everything, but I mean, if you look at the field right now and the possibility of Jon Stewart being an option, I mean, where's the question? There is no question. He would totally get my support, hands down.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the Young Turks, specifically Cenk Uygur, because he made a pretty interesting announcement that is bad news for the Biden administration. And why do I say that? Well, the reason why I say that is not because Cenk in and of himself is an important person, right? He's not important, okay? I mean, he's a failed presidential candidate who wasn't even eligible to be president of the United States in the first place, but decided to run anyways in a desperate attempt to try to force some other Democrat into the race. I'm not exactly sure what his logic was behind this, thinking that, well, if I run against Biden, maybe Gavin Newsom or, you know, Josh Shapiro or some other Democrat will get into the race to challenge Biden. It was an absolute disaster. It was an absolute failure. He probably grifted a couple $1 million off of some of his delusional followers. And then he dropped out after he got 0.0001% support, right, in the primary. But with that being said, again, he is now speaking out about how he may not vote for Joe Biden. Now, again, why is this a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because Joe Biden needs the progressive base in order to win. I've been telling you guys, what the election is going to come down to are probably two groups of people. The progressives who, you know, they usually need to show up to the polls in order for Democrats to win, okay? The young far left voters, okay, they need excitement. Right now, they don't have any excitement, right? Biden is not very exciting. I mean, he wasn't exciting in 2020, but the Trump derangement is what caused these people to go to the polls, right? So the way that they got people to go to the polls is to make silly promises to them that they never were going to fulfill. And you had COVID and, again, Trump derangement, right? But they don't have any of that anymore, okay? They don't have any of these things. Plus, you have the Israel-Gaza situation going on. And then you also have another group of voters, the people who are more sane, but they're still kind of liberal, more moderate. They're Biden voters. However, again, they're dissatisfied with the economy. They care about the real issues like crime, immigration. They're realizing that, hey, the left is just a little bit too far left, right? Biden administration is too progressive. An example of some of these types of people are, for example, somebody like a Stephen A. Smith, who has been very critical of the Biden administration, but he's saying that, hey, I'm going to vote for Biden anyways because I'm so Trump deranged and I don't want to lose my black card. Okay, I don't want to be called a sellout. And he doesn't want to lose his job at ESPN, right? We know that's what would happen if Stephen A. Smith actually came out and said that he would support Trump, right? He doesn't have the cojones to support Trump. Then you have somebody like a Michael Rappaport, who has the most powerful infinity stone of wokeness that protects him if he comes out here and says that he's going to vote for Trump, which he basically has said that, hey, I may vote for Trump, right? I'm basically leaning towards voting for Trump, but I'm definitely not voting for Biden, right? So again, these are the types of voters that we're dealing with here, okay? Cenk is a progressive, and progressives not showing up to vote for Biden almost guarantees that he's going to lose, okay? He most certainly needs the progressive base to show up and vote, okay? He needs them. And Chank coming out here and basically saying that he is probably not going to vote for Biden, that he is actually considering RFK, is a big deal because this is exactly what the mainstream liberal media didn't want to happen. But I said that when RFK picked his progressive VP, that he's probably going to get those progressive votes that otherwise would have went to Biden. And lo and behold, we have Chank, who's a progressive, saying that, hey, I might support RFK. So without further ado, let's actually react to this clip of Chank explaining why he may support RFK over Biden.
Surprising things here. First, I'm going to agree with Kennedy on 4 things. Then I'm going to tell you why what he's saying is partly a trick And so, be careful, about his tactic here. But then I have something even more surprising to say. All right, so first, let me tell you the things I agree with. The headlines are wrong. He didn't say that Biden is definitely a bigger threat. He said he could make an argument for that. And you've got to be careful with that. And you know what the mainstream media loves to do. They love to smear anyone who's an outsider. So boom, they took that as an opportunity to do that. So he's right about that. Number two, he's right to be concerned about Biden being a threat to democracy himself. Maybe not for the reasons that he's stating, but Biden did support anti-democratic movements within the primary. The Democratic Party canceled the election in Florida. They try to keep out every candidate in North Carolina, Tennessee, etc. So they love to rig elections. Yes, I use the word rigged, okay? So you can go cry about it if you're mainstream media. How about you do your job and talk about how they canceled the election in Florida in the primary and just declared Biden the winner? So if you're gonna make the argument that you're a champion of democracy, you should probably try it in your own primaries. Third thing, he's right.
Yeah, so Chank is correct for calling out the Democrats and their hypocrisy on this idea of democracy, which is really just democracy TM, which is simply just Democrat power, right? When they talk about the threat to democracy, you're a threat to democracy, they're saying that you're a threat to our power. This is what they're saying. Chank experienced this firsthand, just like RFK experienced it firsthand by trying to run for president in the Democrat primary against Joe Biden, okay? And essentially, they rigged the primary against Chank. I mean, Chank kind of had to rig against himself because he's not eligible to be president, but RFK, yeah, they definitely rigged it against him, and that's why he's running as an independent, okay? And low-key, I think he's running as revenge for them rigging the primary against him, right? I think that's part of the reason why. But again, you know firsthand that the Democrat Party ain't democratic, right? They are not democratic at all, okay? But see, here's the problem, Chank. People like you come out and you peddle their talking points about how Trump is a threat to democracy, and you give credibility to this idea that the Democrat Party is democratic, right? And if you want to save democracy, then you need to vote for Democrats, when that's silly, right? In fact, again, the Democrats are the OG election deniers. They were denying elections before it was cool to deny elections, right? That's what they were doing, okay? That's what they were doing. So, it's just so funny to me how people like Cenk are aware of this, but yet they go along with these talking points from the Democrats that only serve to benefit Democrats and to keep them in power.
About it is that the establishment in a lot of ways has killed democracy long before Donald Trump tried to. Now, how did they do it? They did it with donors. Donors now completely control our politics. And as I've explained in Justice is Coming, my book, there's been Princeton Northwestern study done over 20 years showing that if you're in the bottom 90% of Americans, your influence on policy is 0%. If you're in the top 10%, you have excellent influence on policy. Does that sound like a democracy to you?
No, I mean, it's a plutocracy, right? Which is clearly and obviously what our country has become, okay? A government buying for the wealthy, okay? And, I personally do agree with progressives when it comes to campaign finance reform and the influence of big money in politics, because a lot of what people complain about in regards to the United States, for example, funding all these wars overseas, well, the reason why they do that is to support the military-industrial complex. Well, why do they want to support the military-industrial complex? Well, part of the reason why is because this is how they get kickbacks for their campaigns, right? So you send tax dollars overseas, right? And you buy these weapons from these defense contractors to send overseas to support these foreign wars. The defense contractors get paid, and then they turn around and they donate back to the politicians. That's typically how it goes, okay? Our foreign policy really is dictated by our multinational corporations, right? It is to protect our multinational corporations and their influence and dominance in the world economy. That is why we fight the wars that we fight, okay? This is why we're so involved in everybody's foreign affairs. It's quite literally on behalf of corporations, right? Big multinational corporations, right? Conglomerates. That's why we do these things, okay? And these corporations being able to put big money into politics most certainly influences our politicians. Doesn't matter who you send to office. If they can just be bought, right? Like you can buy a senator straight up. If they can just be bought, then it's pointless, right? It really is. I mean, you don't really control anything, okay? And again, this is true for Democrats and Republicans. This is part of the reason why nothing ever happens when it comes to the border, because the influx of illegal immigrants, cheap labor benefits big corporations, big business, okay, that are looking for cheaper labor, right? They're going to use the illegals to obtain that, right? And again, this is why nothing ever really gets done. It is better to have this theater of Republicans and Democrats pretending to disagree with each other on the issue and then nothing ever getting done and playing politics while, again, the big corporations benefit from the influx of cheap labor, right? That's essentially what is happening, okay? So I think people got to understand that as long as big money is in politics, it's really hard to, send people to Congress that are pure and actually really want to change the system because, again, they can just get bought off, right? And that's, a huge problem in our politics that I think that we don't talk about enough.
So we lost this a long time ago. Number 4 thing he's right about is they're constantly using fear, both sides. The right wing with the immigrants are coming, the LGBTQ people are coming, the Muslims are coming, be afraid, be afraid. Biden with, oh my God, Trump's a monster, he's gonna take away everything that you care about, be afraid, be afraid. So that's a lot I agree with RFK Jr. on. So the reason why I say it's a trick though is, he's trying to have it both ways because he's trying to get Republican and Democratic voters. So he wants to say something that'll appeal to Republican voters. Or maybe Biden's a bigger threat to democracy. Come Republicans, vote for me. Then when people get mad at him and yell at him and he thinks he's gonna lose Democratic voters, he comes out and goes, no. I meant this, and this. So that's the old plausible deniability trick, right? Where you say something to get votes from one side, and then when you're caught, you say, well, technically, I didn't say that. But brother, why did you frame it that way? When I say it, I'm very clear about what I'm saying. Whereas he's now become a little bit of a politician and hence plays these games. So, but the most surprising thing is, for the first time today, I'm now considering RFK Jr. Now,
what?
I know, shocking, right? And no, hold on. Let me tell you why.
Anna's in disbelief. She's in disbelief. Now, again, what is Anna gonna do? Who knows, right? She claims that she is fed up with the far left, but I don't think she realizes that the Biden administration is a far left administration. Biden ain't run anything, okay? The progressives that are in his administration, in his staff, are actually running his administration, okay? This is why Biden is doing a bunch of things that are, again, progressive, because he's being handled by progressives. Now, Cenk, it seems to me logically, right? I gotta respect this. It would make sense for him to vote for somebody like RFK. That would make sense. Now, will it really matter in the grand scheme of things? Because, for him, I think he's in California. So California is pretty heavily blue. So if he decides to vote for RFK and not to vote for Biden, Biden probably still going to win the state, right? Unless some type of crazy thing happens. But if you have progressives that are thinking like Chank in other states, swing states, then again, that's a big problem for Joe Biden, right? That's a huge problem for Joe Biden, okay?
So is it because I think, maybe he's right about vaccines? No, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on vaccines. And on several other things where he believes in conspiratorial theories that I don't believe in at all. So why on God's green earth would I consider RFK Jr.? Well, until now I hadn't, because of those crazy things that I don't come anywhere near believing. But I thought about it, Anna, and Trump I would never support in a million years. Biden is now funding a genocide and is an awful choice, has been corrupt his whole life. You're never gonna get anything but corruption from Joe Biden. So am I positive RFK Jr. would be worse? He would probably, on health and science, definitely he would be worse. But on everything else, like anti-establishment, money out of politics, I'm not positive RFK Jr. would be worse than Biden.
Oh, okay. I mean,
no. Anna, that is not an endorsement or any kind of like, go get him, rah, 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 RFK Jr. statement. That's a statement of how awful our choices are. Like that.
I agree with you on that, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, this is ridiculous. This is also another talking point that I hate. This idea that your choices are awful, that the choice between Trump and Biden are just two awful choices is ridiculous. Trump is not awful, right? Trump was not an awful president. Trump was a great president. So you have the choice between a president who literally has been awful, right? He has been awful, an awful president, objectively, okay? Awful, terrible, probably one of the worst in history. And then you have the choice between a president that at the very least for the 21st century has been the best president of the 21st century. Okay? So that's what the choice is between. When these people come out and say, well, both choices are bad, I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that nonsense. The only reason you would think Trump is bad is because of his rhetoric. And the only reason that you think Trump's rhetoric is bad is not because of what he actually says. It's because you buy into this crap from the mainstream liberal media, taking everything that he says out of context and making it more than what it is. Trump is not the divisive one. It's the media that's divisive. So, again, this idea that, oh, well, Trump and Biden are both terrible choices. No, Trump is a great choice. Biden is a terrible choice. That's a more accurate evaluation of our presidential candidates.
Mean that, the RFK Jr. is a better option. And I don't know if you saw these headlines. We didn't cover it on the show, but he did reach out to a very specific person to be his VP. And she rejected him because she thinks that there's a good possibility Trump will ask her to be VP, and that person is Tulsi Gabbard. And by the way, I'm going to put it here right now. I am predicting that it is likely Trump is going to pick her for VP. I can feel it. I can feel it in my gut.
Well, it would make sense from an electability standpoint. I mean, she probably would be the best pick to maximize Trump's chance of winning because, again, she used to be a Democrat. She has now become more anti-establishment, but she probably is close enough to the middle to kind of sway some of these people that are kind of on the fence to vote for Trump. Okay, so, I personally think that she probably is the best pick as of right now to increase his chances of winning. I don't think she's the best pick from what I would want to see from a VP, okay, which is somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy that is a superior talent. Okay, I think he's the future of this movement, the future of the party. But again, I wouldn't be completely upset with somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, even though I don't agree with her in a lot of her policies, her left-wing policies. I think that she's moved enough towards the middle, and that along with her anti-establishment appeal, okay, I think could be enough to, I think, stomach it, right? You can tolerate, okay, a Tulsi, right? I get it, okay? You got a woman there. Again, it's a little bit of identity politics, but, the VP, I mean, the most important aspect of the VP is to help expand the base, right? So I guess you could argue that whoever helps expand the base is the most qualified, right, from an electability standpoint. Maybe not so much to actually be president, but from what the VP is, primarily supposed to do, which is to be a cheerleader for the president, and to expand the base and to bring in more voters, then, yeah, I mean, she could be, the best pick. But I think that if you're looking at the VP as, somebody that should, carry the administration into the future, that is supposed to be the future of the party, then she's definitely not the best pick. And again, somebody like Vivek would be a lot better, but we'll see.
You might be right about that. Look, anyone who considers Tulsi Gabbard already is another massive strike. Again, all we have is awful choices. So I'll end on, not a hopeful thing because it's not gonna happen, but I'll tell you who, if they ran, I know they don't believe it. I know I can't get it through his thick head that this is true. But if Jon Stewart ran right now as a third party candidate, he would win. He would flat out win. Because that's a guy who's honest. His positions are almost identical to the American people's positions. He's against corruption. He's a decent human being and he's smart. Oh my God, and he's funny, he's entertaining. People love people that are entertaining. Jon Stewart would win as a third party candidate. For God's sake, John, God damn it, do something. Don't leave us with these horrible options.
Yeah, that's not true. Jon Stewart would not win, right? If he ran as a third party candidate, I'm gonna tell you why. Again, I don't understand why these people that cover politics for a living don't really understand politics. Why is that? Because there's nobody that supports Trump that is going to stop supporting Trump to vote for Jon Stewart. But there's a lot of Democrats, people who would support Biden that would stop supporting Biden, that would not vote for Biden to vote for Jon Stewart. So if you put Jon Stewart in the race, you have somebody that is a liberal, okay, running against Joe Biden, who's also on the left. And then you have RFK, who's also on the left. And then you have Cornel West, who's also on the left. And you have Jill Stein, who's also on the left. So you got 5 or 6 leftists in the race, all competing for the same votes, while Trump has the strongest base, by far the strongest base, and he's just competing amongst himself at that point, right? How would Jon Stewart win? Jon Stewart would not win as a third-party candidate. It's not going to happen. Jon Stewart is too left-wing, okay? He's 100% a left-wing lunatic. He's just going to take votes away from Biden. So, yeah, I hope that Jon Stewart decides to get in the race. Yeah, John, run. Just like Cenk says, run, right? Run. Because, again, somebody like him running would basically guarantee that Trump will win. These people are idiots. Again, I don't understand how these people cover politics for a living, but yet their analysis is just so off, right? It's just so wrong. Like, this doesn't make sense. But again, it's no surprise because you had a bunch of people thinking, oh, RFK is going to take a bunch of votes away from Trump. In what world does that make sense? RFK is a liberal Democrat. Like, he is a Democrat. His family is a Democrat. The Kennedy name is a Democrat name, right? He is a Democrat through and through. He's just a sane Democrat. He's where Democrats used to be, right? But they're too far left now, okay? So, again, this idea that he would take away more votes from Trump than Biden was ridiculous. And, again, lo and behold, you're seeing in the polls that with RFK in the race, he's actually helping out Trump. Because, again, if you just understand how politics works, electoral politics more specifically, it's very obvious, okay, that somebody like a Jon Stewart being in a race, or if you throw another Democrat in a race, that's not going to help Biden or, decrease the chance of Trump losing. Is actually going to increase the chance of Trump winning. So with that being said, I hope Jon Stewart gets in the race. I welcome Jon Stewart to get in the race because it would basically guarantee that Trump will win. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.